Now, let me get back to my original point. Here's a scenario that people aren't really talking about. What happens if both TCU and USC lose? TCU's resume over Ohio State's resume. TCU's best win right now is Kansas State. If they lose in a conference championship game to Kansas State, that best win is erased. And TCU does not have the clincher, which would be the Big 12 championship trophy. Added on to the adage of who is going to win this game in a neutral site in Arizona. USC loses, that puts a 10-2 USC up against a 10-2 Bama resume. It would depend upon where UCLA and Notre Dame is ranked for USC, but that'll be another question. If you put these two in a neutral site, who will be favored in that game and who will most likely win that game? Oh man, I hate my lighting. I gotta get this lighting fixed. But what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy Juju the Gamer here on Juju Sports Corner, and I want to discuss possible playoff scenario. This is before. By the time you're seeing this will be Tuesday morning. So this is before the rankings come out. I'll see if I have enough time to make a rankings reaction video. Because by the time the rankings will come out, I will be at work. So this is before, and so this is what I believe the top 6 will be. And then editor me, put these logos up on the screen. So number 1, Georgia. That just goes without saying. Tech gave them about a good quarter, a good half dogfight, then they just completely took over. Michigan, as much as I hate to say it, I'm still traumatized over that game. I'm still hurt, but I haven't rewatched the game just to torture myself. And they just simply made the plays that needed to be made in the fourth quarter because Ohio State was only down 8. They were only down 8 with about 7 minutes left, so it was a 1-score game. And then in the very next possession for Michigan, 1-play touchdown. Ohio State turned the ball over. Another 1-play touchdown. And it kind of just, they took over in the fourth. But I came away from rewatching that game that Ohio State just beat themselves. Now, you might say, why would you say that when you had a 22-point loss? Simple. They committed too many penalties. Too many blown coverages, and they lost composure in the fourth quarter. That's literally all it was. They just lost composure. They did not keep the mental. They were there physically. They didn't keep the mental. So Michigan will be number 2. Number 3, TCU. TCU will be number 3. They waxed Iowa State, and Iowa State is god awful. And I'm putting USC at number 4. They deserve to be number 4. They earned it. They have beaten 2 straight ranked teams in different ways. Last week they beat UCLA in a shootout. It was a very entertaining game. This next week they basically controlled the entire game between Notre Dame, which is like what Ohio State did. They won by double digits. But there was no actual fear of Notre Dame winning that game. So USC will be number 4 for me. Then number 5, I'm putting my favorite team, Ohio State, at number 5. And then I'll have Bama 6. Now, there's a debate between why won't Bama be number 5. Well, here's my thing. The committee is supposed to rank them when we're looking at the full resume of work. I'm putting Ohio State at number 5, not just because they're my favorite team, but because their best win is still in the top 10. Like, let's be real. If Penn State did not have to play both Ohio State or Michigan, and they probably only had to play just one of them, they will be 11-1. They literally beat everybody. Like, Penn State is 10-2, and you might not know that they're 10-2 because you probably only turned in the 2 games that Penn State played all year. And one of them, they just played god-awful. And that was against Michigan. Now, I don't know why this happens, but Penn State always plays out of their mind against Ohio State. But, and not to mention that Ohio State only lost once. They only lost 1 game. Now, granted, you can look at that, it was a bad loss, but the teams Bama lost to, while they were close losses, the teams they lost to also got waxed later in the season. So those aren't even quality losses anymore like that, because Tennessee, not only did Tennessee get waxed by South Carolina, they also lost their starting quarterback. So that loss took some luster off of it. And then you go to LSU, who got waxed by A&M, which A&M sucked all year. They were that was not a good A&M team that LSU lost to. That was just not a good team that LSU lost to. So that loss took some shine off of it because the team around them, the teams Bama lost to, lost bad. And those are my top 6 that I'm assuming is going to be the top 6 in the CFP. Now here are some scenarios that I just find hilarious. But not really scenarios, but you could kind of see it happening. We know Georgia and Michigan are locks. Like, do we really have to turn into those championship games? Like, is there really any fear that LSU is going to beat Georgia? Is there really any fear that Purdue is going to beat Michigan? Now, granted, if that happens, I will laugh. I will outright laugh if that happens, but I don't think it will happen at all. Like, I just don't think it'll happen. Are we sure TCU was a lock? Are we sure? Because when the rankings first came out, and they were undefeated, mind you, they had them at 7. Like, behind a Bama team or behind a couple teams that already had lost. So, are we sure TCU was a lock, or they just got rewarded because they kept winning? They kept finding ways to win, which is what a good team does. I'm not saying that this isn't fair. I'm not saying that TCU is not a good team. They are a good team. You win all your games. You beat the teams in front of you. No matter how you do it, a win is a win. You beat all the teams in front of you. You are a good team. But in the minds of the committee, we have to think about this. We're not looking at numbers at BCS, because the BCS would have them at number 3 right now. We're looking at human beings. Is the committee going to look at them if they lose to Kansas State? If they lose to Kansas State, is the committee going to do an 8-0 adage of, if you put them against Ohio State in Arizona for a Fiesta Bowl, who would you pick to win that game? I'll just leave it at that. Who would you pick to win that game? TCU against Ohio State. That's how they are going to rank it if TCU loses. They're not going to look at the full body work. I guarantee you they are not going to do that. They're going to go, if you put these two on a neutral field away from their campuses, who would be favored to win that game, and who would win that game? I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, if USC loses, they're done. Like, as much as I hate to say it, they're done. They'll be in the Rose Bowl. Actually, they won't be in the Rose Bowl. Oregon will. If USC loses, they'll still be in a New Year's Six Bowl, but they're not a lock. They have to win. They are not a lock. Now, I know some of you saying, they would only have 2 losses. They played well enough to be a lock. I've had a question about their defense this entire year. Don't get me wrong, Caleb Williams is playing out of his damn mind. He is the Heisman winner. He's playing out of his damn mind. But would he have to do that if his defense was not giving up 30 a game? Let's walk this back a little. If USC's defense was not getting generational turnover numbers, would Caleb Williams have to do as much? Because that's the thing. Like, USC's defense is not good. They're good at getting turnovers, but they don't really stop people like that. The only game that they really did that was last week against Notre Dame. Like, they came to play. I watched that game. They had a different energy on defense. But I still have a question about their defense. Now, if they lose to Utah again, can you really put them in a playoff? And they lost twice to the exact same team at number 4. Now, granted, them against Georgia would be a fun matchup. But I also think Georgia would score 50 and USC would probably score 30. So, but here's a scenario I really want to get into that nobody's kind of mentioning that could happen. Because did people watch that Kansas State TCU game? Like, TCU knocked out both Adrian Martinez and Will Howard. That only left Kansas State's third stringer in the game. Now, mind you, when this happened, Kansas State was winning 28-10. It is harder to beat a team twice. Are we sure that TCU is going to beat Kansas State? Now, let me get back to my original point. Here's a scenario that people aren't really talking about. What happens if both TCU and USC lose? Like I said, it's college football. Anything can happen. These teams they're playing in the conference championship games, well, I take that back. Well, for Kansas State and Oregon, they deserve to be, well, not Oregon, Utah. They deserve to be there. They won the games they needed. They needed to win. They also had some luck. The other teams had lost that let them get there. But I'm going to keep repeating this. What happens if they both lose? Because now we have to. The committee has to decide. TCU's resume over Ohio State's resume. TCU's best win right now is Kansas State. If they lose in a conference championship game to Kansas State, that best win is erased. That best win is erased, and TCU does not have the clincher, which would be the Big 12 championship trophy. That would go to Kansas State. So now, TCU's best win would be Texas. Yeah, it would either be Texas or no, it would be Texas. Actually, it would be Texas. Yeah, it would be Texas. Couple that with Ohio State's resume, and that would be Penn State, who will be in the top 10. Penn State is 10-2. They're going to be in the top 10, whether people like it or not. They're in the top 10, and it'll also be Notre Dame. So it'll be two 11-1 teams' resume up against each other, added on to the adage of who is going to win this game in a neutral site in Arizona. Just think about that. Now, if USC loses, that puts a 10-2 USC up against a 10-2 Bama resume. Now, it would depend upon where UCLA and Notre Dame is ranked for USC. It would have to depend on that. But Bama's best win would be Texas, which I'm assuming is going to be in like from 15 to 20 or high 20s. They're going to be somewhere in that range. And Ole Miss, which might be in that range too. Surprisingly, they're both like 8-4. But that'll be another question. If you put these two in a neutral site, away from their campuses, who will be favored in that game? And who will most likely win that game? Because like I said, if USC's defense doesn't get turnovers, they haven't really gotten stops all year. You couple that with a Bryce Young and an angry Bama team, a Bama team that'll get up when they realize, oh, we still have something to play for. I might pick Bama just to win that game. So there's a wild ass scenario out there that nobody's talking about. What if both TCU and USC lose? Because You want chaos? That's chaos right there. TCU and USC are not locks unless they win. They are not locks. If they both lose, I guarantee you, ESPN and the TV networks will salivate at getting Georgia versus Bama and Ohio State and Michigan again. Because that is what's going to happen. It's not fair, but that is exactly what's going to happen. I'm telling you this. I am telling you this. This is exactly what's going to happen. If TCU and USC lose, if both of them lose, it's going to be Ohio State and Michigan again in Arizona for the Fiesta Bowl. And it'll be, what? It'll be Georgia and Bama again in Atlanta. Like that's the scenario I'm not hearing a lot of people talk about. And what if, and that's the absolute emergency chaos button that's flying under the radar, because it is very possible that both TCU and USC can lose. Now, it's also possible only one of them can lose, but there is a possibility that both of them can lose. Now, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that bell notification so you're notified every single time I upload, and let me know what your thoughts about this chaos scenario. What if TCU and USC both lose the conference championship games? You want to talk about chaos? That's chaos. But I'll see you on the next video. Peace.